Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Meyer. I work in housing here at Pitt, and I also represent Panther Central. I am accompanied this evening with two of my colleagues, Jill and Amanda, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good evening from Pittsburgh. My name is Amanda Reese. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Director of Residence Life.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Harvey. I'm the Director of First Year Advising in the Swanson School of Engineering. I also use she, her pronouns.
Thank you both. This evening, what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a short presentation going over some upcoming housing deadlines, and then we are going to go over the Living Learning Community application and then what it looks like to live in a living learning community as a first-year student in on-campus housing. And then at the end, we will have plenty of time for question and answers. So if you want to drop questions into the chat, into the Q&A, Jill and Amanda will be answering some of them in the Q&A, and then also we'll answer them for everyone at the end here. So I am going to share my screen and go through the PowerPoint. Let's see here. Okay, so we will be going over some upcoming housing deadlines, what it is to be an LLC, how to complete the LLC application, LLC locations, and then some roommate requests and building preference information as well for students who have both of those as well who are interested in the living learning community. If you're a student on the Zoom this evening, you should have received an email to your Pitt housing or your Pitt email address with information on when your deadline is to complete your housing application. And as of right now, everyone's deadline is June 1st, 2023. So you want to make sure that you have your housing deposit paid and your housing application completed by June 1st. This is in order to retain that guarantee. So if you're looking to have guaranteed housing for your first year, you will need to have both of those things done. And then with that, you also will need to submit your ID photo for your Panther card. And then this is also the deadline if you have a roommate request or a living learning community request. So your application for housing should have asked if you're interested in an LLC, and you can, there's a drop down and you choose one of those. And then there's a supplemental application for the actual living learning community that you have to complete if you are interested in living in a living learning community. So what exactly is a living learning community? It's a specialized living environment that connects students inside and outside of the classroom. On campus, we have major and interest-based LLCs that are available. And like I said before, students must complete the supplemental application to be considered for that living learning community. And this does include honors college students. So if you were accepted into the honors college or for a specific major and you're interested in living in that living learning community like business, engineering, health sciences, you would have to complete that supplemental application, letting us know that you are interested in living in that community. Amanda, would you like to go over some of our current communities?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jenna. So as Jenna mentioned, we have a couple different types of living learning communities here at Pitt. The exciting thing is that we have LLCs for both interest-based and what you're studying academically. And there are lots of LLCs that can hopefully match something that you're interested in or your field of study. Our in special interest LLCs, so for example, our appreciation of the arts, creative writing, music, do not have an academic requirement. So if that is something that you are interested in, but perhaps are not pursuing, but it's something you pursued in high school or had an interest in, or something you're interested in learning more about, those LLCs are available to you outside of your academic course of study. We also have living learning communities that do not have a requirement for academic enrollment, but do have a course attached to that. So our Gender and Sexuality LLC and our Women Lead LLC are two living learning communities that are associated with our Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies program, where you would actually take a 1-credit course as part of that community, but you do not need to be enrolled in a program through Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies. You can have an interest and want to take classes in that space. Then we do have, as Jenna mentioned, our academic themes, my colleague Jill can talk a little bit more about those that are tied to specific academic programs like nursing, engineering, business, but great opportunities all around. But don't think you have to be tied to a major or academic course of study if LLC living is interesting for you. There's lots of great opportunities outside of your academic pursuits and things you just have interest in, and happy to answer questions and chat more about that as well.
Thanks. Jill, let's talk about engineering.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. I'm looking at the participants list here, and I do see some familiar names. So I know we have some engineers with us tonight. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. So I am the liaison to the First Year Engineering LLC. And what I can tell you after many, many years working at the University of Pittsburgh in the Swanson School of Engineering is that the students who live in our LLC love the experience of living there. There is definitely a camaraderie that forms when you are both living and also attending class and learning alongside the people that you're living with. And definitely one of the biggest advantages, I would say, of living in the First Year Engineering LLC and any academically affiliated LLC is that you truly do live and learn together among other motivated students in your major. You have the opportunity to make friends in the living environment with people who have really similar interests to yours. And you have the ability to collaborate in key classes having to do with your major. And in engineering, those would be math and science classes primarily. First year engineering students take a lot of similar classes in their very first year. And so, you know, the ability to just kind of walk outside your door and find other people who are also taking a really challenging physics class or calculus class is one of the advantages of living in the LLC. The other cool thing about the engineering living learning community for first year students is that most of the RAs that participate in our living learning community, the resident assistants, these are upperclassmen who help out with the building of community in the residence halls. Those RAs are typically also engineering students. So you have ready access to people who have walked in your shoes. They've been there, they've done that. They know what's great about engineering studies. They know what's challenging about it, and you can learn from them as well. And they also plan community building events for the engineering LLC. Some of them are social in nature. They've done casino nights, they've done ice cream socials. And some of them are academically related. So some of the pictures that you can see there sort of convey that. I think that middle picture is a ping pong tournament. And then they do a trip to Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water every year. There's a big hackathon that they sponsor every year. For those of you that are interested in Forbes Hacks, that's one of their signature events. So it's a place where we really try to build a strong community. And I think that, you know, what comes from that is both friendship and fun and, you know, academic support. So if this is something that you're thinking about, we would love to have you apply to the living learning community in engineering. But I do want to say on behalf of my colleagues who, you know, work with other academically affiliated living learning communities, these are really great support networks regardless of your major. So if there's a major that, you know, we're a school that sponsors a living learning community in the academic area of your interest, I would definitely say that this is something that's worth considering for you.
I'm sold, Jill. Sign me up. One of our other academically affiliated living learning communities is the Pitt Business LLC. And unfortunately, our partner couldn't be here this evening. But the Pitt Business LLC is housed in Bruce Hall, which is right in the quad in the center of campus. And like the other LLCs, some perks of living in the Bruce Hall LLC is you get to live with other Pitt Business students and interact with student clubs and organizations within your own residence hall. They do have an on-site tutoring program within the classroom in Bruce Hall. So just like engineering, a lot of the first year Pitt Business students are taking similar classes. So to have that resource for studying and tutoring is a great benefit. There is opportunity for study abroad funding. They offer Microsoft training, and then I always thought this was cool because you always see the Pitt business students leaving Bruce Hall for their internships and things, but they have great opportunities to visit local companies and firms for internship opportunities, shadowing opportunities, all affiliated to Pitt Business and your track. And like I said, our partner Haley couldn't be here this evening, but she did drop her email address here. So if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Haley in Pitt Business, and she'd be happy to answer any of those questions. Okay, so how do you actually complete the Living Learning Community application? So step one is that you want to complete your housing application by June 1st. And then once you complete that application, that's kind of the gateway of other supplemental things that you can do. And step two would be to complete that LLC application, which you can see here is a screenshot of the first year portal. That second red arrow at the bottom, that 23-24 LLC application, you can click apply here and complete the LLC application there. It's a very short application and a few simple questions, but it is needed because you sign a contract at the end of it that indicates that you are interested in living in that community. So we do disclose some of our locations for living learning communities, but others we do not, because we don't want students to apply to that living learning community only because of the location. We want them to apply for the community because of the actual community itself. So some of the locations that we do disclose are Pitt Business, which is in Bruce Hall, Engineering, which is in Forbes Hall, the Honors College LLC, which is in Sutherland Hall, and then our Nursing LLC, which is in Lothrop Hall, because it's closer to the academic buildings associated to that major. And then other locations will be released whenever notice of assignments are communicated in July. So if you do apply for an LLC and you are accepted, you will be notified in July after your notice of assignment comes out, letting you know that you were accepted into that LLC. We often get questions about, can I apply for an LLC and also have a roommate request? What do building preferences mean on my application if I'm applying into an LLC? So roommate requests are always encouraged, but not guaranteed. And it is dependent on availability within the space of the LLC. So every year, our numbers can fluctuate on the number of applications and the number of spaces that we have available. So if there is space available within the LLC, we do try to pull in roommates so that you can be living together in the LLC. If the roommate is applying for the LLC because they have the same major or interest, that's great. That means we have 2 applications, but your roommate does not have to apply for the LLC. But there is a better chance of them being placed in the LLC as your roommate if they are applying with you. And then building preferences, we like to say they should be alternative options that do not include LLC building. So go into your, building preferences thinking that the LLC might not be an option. So I don't want you to think that you might not be accepted into the LLC, but just in case you're not, what would be your top 3 choices to live on campus? So say you're applying for the Honors LLC in Sutherland. You don't get accepted, but you had a first choice of Tower A, a second choice of Brackenridge, and a third choice of Tower C. We would then try to put you in one of those 3 options if you did not get into your LLC choice. So those are always some questions that we get, but if you have further questions about this process, drop them in the Q&A. So some other resources that we have available, you can always rely on our housing services website, which is the pc.pitt.edu, and search for housing services and then specifically first year students. This is where you can find deadlines and then building information. And then we have the Living Learning Community website that's through Student Affairs. And then if there are upcoming Residence Life Zoom sessions, they would be on that website as well. Okay. We will now open it up for Q&A. Is there an additional cost for the Living Learning Community? No. Amanda, if you want to answer.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jenna. So no, there's not an additional cost for our living learning communities. We want these opportunities to be accessible to anyone who's interested. If they're very, very rarely, we will have a small fee associated with registration for one of our large or more highly of interest. So Jill mentioned the trip to Falling Water. Our engineering LLC goes to Falling Water every year. There's usually a nominal deposit associated with that to reserve space. But certainly always, if cost is a barrier to participating in an LLC, we do have opportunity available to waive those costs as well. So short answer, no, there is not cost to LLC living. And if there is a cost associated with a program and cost is a barrier to attendance, we will work with you on that.
Great. Amanda and Jill, this could be for both of you, but how is it determined who is accepted into the LLC?
Primarily it has to do with space. And so if I have, engineering students, if I have ample space for the engineering students who apply, then applying to the LLC and indicating your interest, usually will get you placed there. If it happens to be a year where we have more students who apply to the LLC than there is space, then I look at the reasons why students are interested in participating in the LLC, and I make decisions according to the submissions that students, that they give us for why they want to be there.
Yeah, Jill named that very well. We work hard to make the LLCs an opportunity for everyone who is interested. But as Jill named, we also want to make sure that we're encouraging you to put forth your best effort in that application process, because some LLCs are far more competitive than others in terms of space versus application. So making sure that you are giving a good effort in your application to help us if we need to make decisions is your best way to increase your opportunity to be placed in an LLC.
Great. Amanda, I have another question for you. Does Sutherland Hall only house honor students, or is there an option for regular first year non-LLC students as well?
Yes, so Sutherland Hall does have opportunities for non-LLC students. Sutherland Hall is a very large building, separated in an east wing and a west wing. One of our wings in Sutherland will be dedicated to non-LLC folks, non-honor students. So certainly if you are interested in living in Sutherland Hall, as Jenna named, ranking those options. So let's say, for example, you're an engineering student and you're hopeful to get into the Forbes engineering LLC, but you need to pick some other options. And hey, Sutherland also looks like, if I don't get into Forbes, a great place to live. You can certainly name Sutherland as an opportunity or rank it as an option for you in your housing application, because we do have non-honors LLC space in that building as well.
Great. I'm just going to answer a couple of application related questions. So the housing application deadline is June 1st. So you do have to have your signed housing application and deposit paid by that deadline. But that is also the deadline to make any updates to your application as well. So that is roommate preferences, LLC application, and building preferences. So you do not have to go back into your housing application once you complete it. There is another button on the portal that says update preferences here that you can do all of those things within that as well. So you don't have to keep going back into like the 17-page long housing application. You can just update your preferences on the portal. Another question that I'm getting is, how do room assignments work? So I'm just going to briefly touch on that as well. So as of right now, like I said before, the deadline for all incoming first year guaranteed students is June 1st, and we do not open any housing applications until June 2nd when I arrive to campus with my coffee. It's not a whoever completes their application first, first come, first serve process. We go through each application and we have to, assign the LLCs, we have to assign RAs, things like that. It's a whole process to make sure that people end up in the spaces that most fit them or like what we have available. So we assign everybody at the same time. So the entire month of June, I'm typing away, making sure everyone gets the best option for them. And then in July is when we release notice of assignments. So I would say some of the questions that I'm getting here, what are the chances that someone might end up in a single if they want it, if they want a double? If your number one choice is a single and you only want a single, then I would make all three of your preferences a single, because that indicates to us that that is your one and only choice, and we do try to cater to that. If you want a double, Tower A, Tower B, those are options for doubles. Holland has doubles. But then if you are interested in doubles with other students, like you're open to a suite, Sutherland, Brackenridge, Bruce Hall, those are all spaces that have bedrooms that hold 2 people, but then are in a suite with other students. So if you're open to having more than 2 room or more than 1 roommate, definitely recommend putting some other preferences on there, just to kind of like give us a range of what you're interested in. But please do not put a building on your application that you have no interest in, because we try our best to make sure that you end up somewhere that you want to be. If you have seen older LLC applications, like if you had a Pitt student that went here a couple of years ago, you may have noticed that some of our LLC applications have changed and that they are all now on the same application. So it is correct if you are completing the honors LLC and you don't see multiple essays on there. We streamlined it this year and made all LLC questions the same for it, which then ties into the LLC application that you're completing is your first choice. And then there is a second choice drop down in the application itself. So your first choice is the one that you're completing for, and then you can let us know what your second choice is on the application. And the application ties to both because it's the same for all LLCs. Amanda, is there an LLC for pre-med students?
Yeah, so our health science LLC is open to students who are pursuing health sciences. I will say that there is sometimes a misnomer that is the pre-med LLC. The health science living learning community is open to all students who are pursuing any health sciences. So we have students who are studying emergency medicine, physical therapy. We work very closely with the Pre-Health Professions Advising Center. They are a fantastic partner to get us connected to lots of different faculty and academic opportunities for all of our students studying the health sciences. So the short answer is there a pre-med LLC? Yes, it's the Health Science LLC.
And then I saw that you also wanted to answer about are certain residential buildings more quiet versus socially active?
Yes, I do want to answer that question. So here's what I will tell you as an incoming student. Our first year buildings change year to year because the people who live there change year to year. So as Jenna mentioned, if you have been familiar with the housing application process or the living on campus in your first year process because a friend or a sibling or a family member has been to Pitt, what I will tell you is absolutely the culture depends on the folks who are living in there. You set the tone and vibe for your communities year to year. So if Tower B was quiet last year and Tower A was a little more social, shall we say, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to be the culture and community of the building year to year, because you're all first year students and you're creating your own community and your own identities as residents of that building. So the short answer is it depends.
It does depend. And Jill, I see that you're typing this answer, but if you want to answer it live too, are the answers to LLC questions expected to be essays or just a few sentences?
Sure. So what I'm just typing in the chat right now is that I'm generally just looking to see that someone has given real thought to why they want to be in an LLC. I'm looking for quality over quantity. First of all, I work with engineering students. They hate to write a lot of the time. So I'm not looking for paragraphs for my engineers. I want to know what you hope to gain from living in the LLC, maybe what you hope to contribute by living in the LLC, and what about living in that community is attractive to you. So if you can do that in a few sentences and communicate that to me in a clear way and, just a few sentences, that's great. I'm not necessarily looking for paragraphs. I mean, you're busy, we're busy. I just want to know that you've given thought to why you want to be in that community.
And then I have a question for you both as well. So say I'm a student in an LLC and there's a really awesome program happening, but my friend lives in a different building. Can I bring that friend over to the program?
I feel like this is now my standard answer. It depends. Some of our LLC programs are open to the greater university community or to friends of folks who live in that LLC, and some LLC programs are exclusive to the LLC members themselves. One of the great perks about living in an LLC is you get awesome access and opportunity to some really cool programs. And again, some of those programs we have the opportunity to open up, and some of those are exclusive to living learning communities and the people who live in that space.
Amanda, one more question for you. Can you brief us on Honors College and Honors LLC versus maybe expanding into another LLC if they're an Honors College student?
So I have been trying to get to the honors questions in the chat. So I'm again not a fast typer. I'm a millennial. But what I can say is that you have lots of options as an honors student in the LLC, but also we have honors students who live in other LLCs. So for example, if you are a health science student and you are really torn between the honors program and the health science LLC, what we can share with you is that one, Jenna mentioned the second choice, always list two. But second of all, think about how you would like to engage programmatically and what opportunities you may have available for yourself. You are not required to live in an LLC based on your academic course of study. So if you are a health science student, you do not have to live in the health science LLC. If you would like to live in the honors college LLC because you are also an honors student. The same thing says if you are a honors student who's very interested in living in the Pitt Business LLC, that would be an opportunity for you as well. So to think about kind of where your interests lie, where you feel that you would engage most and be the most engaged member of that community, are all options available to you. Because again, there's no requirement if this then this as LLC membership.
Thank you. I'm going to answer a couple of general questions that have come through. There was a question that came through about community kitchens and, you know, what is available. And I did want to promote that we are having another Zoom information session next Wednesday, the 17th, from 3 to 4 p.m. And that one is housing and dining specific. So we will have Pitt Eats and dining representatives in that session, answering questions about community kitchens, accessibility, what a meal plan looks like, and things like that. And then if you are not able to attend that session live, the posting will be on our website and on YouTube whenever it's complete. So we're going to be answering a lot of questions about what it looks like to eat on campus next week. And then I'll answer some questions about roommates. So as far as making sure that your roommate group is complete, so if you meet a student in room sync and you accept each other in room sync, you do not have to do anything else. We get that information from room sync that you two have matched. But if you know someone not on room sync, maybe you go to the same high school or your friends outside of Pitt, and you want to be their roommate, you do have to do the roommate group within the application. So I say that the most responsible friend should be the leader of the group, and then they should send the invitation to their roommate request, and all that you need is their name and PeopleSoft number. And as long as that student is another guaranteed first-year student at Pitt, that student, all that they have to do is go onto their application and accept that invitation. So I will post a video of this on our website on how to do that. But if you have any questions on if your roommate group is complete or how to do it, Panther Central is a really great resource. They can talk you through what that process looks like. Do students often do a random roommate choice? How well does that work out? I will say that of our incoming first year group, it is the majority that students have a roommate request. So it's just how our student population works, but we have plenty of students that do end up with a random roommate, and I almost encourage it because it makes it a little bit more fun showing up and meeting someone new and living with them. And a lot of people think that they have to be best friends with their roommate, and you really don't need to be best friends with your roommate. I think as long as you are two individuals understanding that, you're both in the same place at the same time, respecting each other's space and here for the right reasons, then you can totally be successful at roommates. And honestly, I think that those roommates sometimes work out better because there are no expectations on hangouts, going out, studying, boundaries, things like that. But Amanda, if you want to touch on that, you might know more than I do.
I'm just going to echo what
Yeah.
Jenna, truly, sometimes the best roommates we have found are folks who didn't know each other before they came to school, for a couple reasons. One, they're experiencing their college arrival together and setting those expectations and having good conversations as they're getting to know one another. Would highly encourage, if you're choosing to live with someone who you know, to think about the fact that while you may know them very well, you've never lived together, so that you're spending time, energy, and effort to really talk about what it means to live together and set some good expectations about what it means to be roommates, in addition to friends, because those are actually two very different things. The other thing I will always name is if you have a friend who doesn't live with you, you're already going to automatically know at least one more person at Pitt when you arrive. So if you are living with someone you don't know, but you've got a friend living down the hall, down the street, that automatically also will expand your social network as you arrive to Pitt, because you're getting connected to more folks, because you've got that person you're already knowing who's got a roommate, you've got a roommate, and it's easier to grow your social connections and get to know more folks as you arrive.
Is there any specific LLC for a data science major?
The short answer is not yet, but we're working on it. We're working with our friends in computer science to actually work with some data science and computer information systems. So unfortunately, if you're on this call now, that means you're joining us in the fall, and that's not ready yet. So I would highly encourage you to maybe consider some of those special interest spaces. But right now, no, we don't have anything specific to data science.
Thank you.
Jenna, I'm going to jump in on that question as well,
Yeah.
just because I do sometimes get applications from computer science majors or people whose majors are adjacent or somewhat related to engineering. And I do want to let folks know that when we are, and I should have mentioned this when you asked earlier about, who gets in, who doesn't get in. When I'm filling spaces in the engineering LLC, I am looking primarily for engineering majors. That's not to say that we've never had somebody outside of engineering when there's been extra space in our LLC. But typically we're looking for first year engineering students. So I would take a look, as Amanda said, at that LLC list overall and see what other special interests are of interest to you. And, get out there and see what else is out there.
Or if you are a data science major that you have an interest in the arts or music as a hobby, feel free to apply to one of those living learning communities. Let's see here. I am gonna talk a little bit more about roommates because that seems to be a very popular question. So will you definitely get the person you put on your roommate request for housing? So as the person who primarily does all of the first year assignments, my number one priority is to keep roommates together. And that's because I would much rather put two students together in a building that they might not have preference as their number one choice than to separate them and put them in their buildings that are their number one choice. So if you are indicating a roommate on your application and that person accepts the invitation, I am taking that as you definitely want to live with that person. The only time we end up splitting roommates is, again, maybe there is no space in the living learning community, or if an accommodation request comes up that someone needs a single and then we cannot accommodate. But even so, if we can get them in the same building, we even try to keep them together as much as possible. So will you definitely get the person you put on your application? We can never guarantee it, but we do prioritize it the most over anything else. Okay. How do I match roommates? If you are going in for random, on your housing application, there is a list of about 10 questions that we ask you to complete truthfully, because that is what we use to match roommates. So we match roommates based off of those questions, as well as some of the other preferences that you put on your application, like building bed space type, whether it's a double or a suite or a triple. So please give us all the information we need on your application, because that is how we assign you a bed space. Something that I did not go over, but it is a question on the LLC application, is we ask you to prioritize your preference. So there is like it says within the application, it says, you know, if you were to choose an LLC or your roommate preference, if it came down to it, there is a drop down that says LLC, roommate, or not applicable, because you wouldn't care. But I would say that if you were accepted into an LLC and you mark on that preference form that the LLC is your #1 choice, we will pull you from your roommate. But if you indicate roommate preference is your top priority, then we will keep you out of the LLC or not accept you to make sure that you're with your roommate request. So that is, and you can ask the group, that is usually the #1 question that we get with LLCs is, why didn't my roommate get placed with me? Or why was I separated? And it's because one of them indicated on their application that they wanted LLC over roommate versus roommate over LLC. You can always request a roommate after you've turned in your housing application. You can do roommate requests, LLC applications, and meal plan adjustments all the way through June 1st. Amanda talked about health sciences. Amanda, do you want to brief a little bit on the new LLC this year, creative writing?
I would love to talk about the new LLC this year. So we have a great new LLC partner and a great new LLC opportunity in creative writing. This is a partnership with our English department, but you do not need to be a student pursuing a major or minor in that space. If you have an interest in writing, if you are interested in engaging in writing workshops and working with faculty and learning more about creative writing and the writing process, the Creative Writing LLC is a really good opportunity. I don't have favorites. I love all of my LLCs equally, but I think this is going to be a really cool opportunity. We're very excited. We've got a lot of really fun momentum behind this. And again, one of the coolest parts about this LLC is that you do not need to be studying writing to be a part of the Creative Writing LLC. And I will also share that this LLC is particularly student driven. We have upper class students who came to us and said, if this had existed when I was a first year student, I would have loved it. So I want to put it together. So not only is this a great partnership with our friends in the English department, but this has been student driven by our upper class students who are striving to create something really cool for our first year students to engage in. So if you enjoy writing, have an interest in honing that skill, or really working with other people to workshop and learn more, and just spend some time in a creative space, this is my apparently plug and commercial for our Creative Writing LLC.
And I have another question for you. Are the residence hall floors all the same gender or a mix?
Sure. So that depends on the building, transparently. Some of our buildings have single gendered floors. Some of our buildings are gendered by wing. And some of our buildings are gendered by suite, and we do have lots of options for gender inclusive spaces as well. So highly recommend you check out the housing website for information on gender inclusive spaces if that is something that you are looking for. But it truly depends on the building as to how, if we are separated by gender, how that gender separation happens by building. We'll also, again, plug our Gender and Sexuality LLC is a really cool LLC that is a gender inclusive space. And that is one of our living learning communities that is tied to one credit course taught by a faculty member in our Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies department. It is a really cool, really thriving living learning community that does some really awesome academic work. Last year, they put together a zine as part of their coursework together in that living learning community as well. So if you're looking for a gender inclusive space and looking for a living learning community opportunity, again, plug for the Gender and Sexuality LLC.
Thanks. So we are going to start wrapping up, but I do want to reiterate that your student, or if you are a student, should consistently be checking their Pitt email for information regarding deadlines, and as well as upcoming information about submitting their photo for their Panther card, application deadlines, arrival information will come through there, and then any information regarding living learning communities will also go through the Pitt email address. Again, the deadline to apply for housing and the living learning community and roommate preferences is all June 1st. You are not able to apply for the living learning community or make any updates to your application regarding building or roommates after June 1st. So please make sure if you're making updates, you can do it as many times as you want all the way up through till June 1st, but on June 2nd, that portion of the application comes down. We will be having another Zoom session next Wednesday, May 17th at 3 p.m. Your student, or if you are a student again, should have gotten an email with an invitation to register for that Zoom as well. And it is housing and meal plan specific. So reps from Pitt Dining and Pitt Eats will be on there. And then I will go through the housing application a little bit more in depth on where to make meal plan adjustments and things like that. If you have building specific questions, please refer to our website, or if you have any other needs, you can always contact Panther Central. They are open 24/7. You can chat, submit a request, or call. Or if you're local, feel free to stop in. Our representatives are always happy to answer questions about the buildings. Amanda or Jill, can you think of anything that I might be missing?
Not missing, but going to take one more time for my LLC commercial. And one, say thank you very much for joining us tonight on behalf of Residence Life. Thanks to my partners in housing for having us this evening, and to our LLC partner, Jill, for joining us. But truly, an LLC is a great opportunity. If you've got questions about LLC's programming, if you've got questions about what an LLC really is or what opportunities would be available, go to our website, reslife.pitt.edu. Our contact information is on there. Shoot us an email, give us a call. We're happy to chat about the experience as well.
My only other comment, Jenna, is to just, throw out there that students tend to develop a real loyalty to their LLC communities for, whatever reason. One of the questions I was just answering in the chat was someone who asked about, like, are there disadvantages to living in an LLC? And, LLCs are not for everybody. But if you're here tonight because you had questions about them, we've piqued your interest. And I think that that's great. Even if an LLC is in a building where maybe you hadn't thought already about living, or if you have reservations about living only among students in your major, the students who tend to choose LLCs tend to be happy with their choice. They tend to develop a loyalty not only to that community, but to the building where they live. So there's so many different advantages, I think, that come with living in an LLC, that if you're on the fence, I do think it's worth rolling the dice. And Jenna, thanks for having us tonight.
Anytime. And shameless plug, not that I'm not excited for everyone to experience their first year, but as an upper class student, there are also LLC options. So if you enjoy it so much your first year, or if you end up not living in a living learning community your first year, there are plenty of options as a sophomore and junior on campus to take part in LLCs as well. So, and you'll get more information about that once you arrive to campus for housing for your sophomore year. So thank you again for attending this Zoom. We will be posting it to our website and dropping the link in upcoming emails to the students who are arriving in August. So keep an eye out for the YouTube link on where to find this. And then thank you again, and we'll see you soon.